that there's a financial disclosure form, and I believe that's basically going to be our new form based upon what
Correct,
we
and
just voted.
the only change on here, for the most part, the only changes are formatting, and on the last page, on page 32 of 50, it's per the state code, and it addresses what you just approved in your ordinance. It says, if your spouse is required to file a lobbying registration statement, provide the name and address of the entity that has engaged your spouse for lobbying purposes below, because we did not have that on our financial disclosure form. And it addresses the lobbying section there. And the only other thing that we added on page 33 of 50, on the long form, we're requiring it to be notarized as opposed to witness. The short forms that go to your committee members can still utilize the short form, but the long form needs to be notarized.
And I apologize I meant to ask that before we voted, but I looked at it prior to, and I didn't see any difference. I just assumed that was the new form, so.
Correct,
Okay.
that is the new form.
Mr. Ritz, does that cover it? You good?
Yes,
Okay, great.
absolutely.
Anybody else? Ms. Gracie? Very good. Okay, we now turn our attention to agenda item 4, policy and ordinance changes for consideration regarding the use of baseball fields.
Correct. So,
And let me just jump in. There was a loose sheet, I believe. Is that correct? It was added?
correct,
so
there's
I trust everyone
one
has this.
small change to the policy that was in your packet. It was just an administrative change, it doesn't change the body of the policy.
Okay.
So, as you know, earlier in 2017, we brought a park pavilion policy to you for consideration to charge fees for the use of the pavilions for residents and non-residents to assist with the maintenance and the upkeep of our pavilions. Discussion since then has been about our ball fields and also charging a fee to use the ball fields to help with the maintenance and the upkeep, because staff puts a lot of time in the upkeep of the fields. We buy a lot of the material to upkeep it. And talking to a lot of municipalities that some charge already, some are looking to charge. So town staff particularly, excuse me, Miss Ray and Miss Shaw did a lot of research, seeing what other municipalities and other places do as far as reserving their ball fields. So with that, we took all the information we had, talked to staff, and prepared a policy strictly for the ball fields. And when you make the change to the policy, it also affects your ordinance. So we'll start with page 3450 is your ordinance related to your park and recreation facilities. And so that's Title 12, entitled Streets, Sidewalks, and Public Places. Section 12.20030, qualifying conditions, simply states that all applications for facilities should be submitted to the town of Emmitsburg's town office, hereafter known as the department, 1 week prior to the activity start date. Currently, your code, it's submitted to the Parks and Rec Department. We don't have a Parks and Rec Department, and we cut the reservation time down to 1 week as opposed to 2 weeks. Thought that was more reasonable. Section B, or letters B through D remained unchanged. Section 12.20.040, general information, A through G remained unchanged. Letter H, the department, the town, will be responsible for the normal maintenance of the ball fields, and we added unless otherwise specified in an agreement. Normal maintenance includes mowing the field, weed eating, dragging the field with a spike drag, reseeding, and routine repair of fences and dugouts. and field placement of infield mix. So all that was still, it was currently in the code, we just added the agreement section. Same thing with letter I, what ball field applicants are required to do unless, and we added unless otherwise specified in an agreement. Lining the fields for games, placement of bases, dragging the field after the game, removing trash, repairing any damage, filling in batters' boxes and pitchers' mounds. Letter J remains unchanged. Letter K remains unchanged. Letter I, any request for minor repairs to a ball field, concession stand, pavilion, etc. should be made to the department's contact person in a timely manner. We added that, Monday through Friday, between the hours of 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. We struck out by 1 p.m. I don't know why that was in there. Letter M remains unchanged. Section 12.20.050, availability of facilities. Letter A, all we did was strike out athletic fields are not available for competitive athletic programs until April 1st, weather permitting. And we didn't see a need for that to be in there any longer. Letter B, letter C remained unchanged. Letter D, the availability of all, and we added all, facilities in Emmitsburg's parks is well on a first-come, first-served basis with applicants from the Emmitsburg voting district given first priority. In letter E, we added to the code and the ordinance, it had currently been on, in your policy already, the same field cannot be reserved for 7 consecutive days. 1 day must remain open for public use. Section 12.20070, ball field fee schedule information. A ball field schedule is per policy 18-01, which now in hindsight, we probably should have gone over the policy first. Section 12.20095, Emmitsburg swimming pool facilities, and we just came across this. We added the primary contact person for the Emmitsburg swimming pool facilities, this town manager or his or her designee. And in my absence, the town clerk is the secondary contact person. The commissioner of the Parks and Rec, you're not here. They can certainly email you
Yeah.
with any comments or concerns, but on a daily basis, the town clerk in my absence is going to be the point of contact for the pool.
I actually noticed that a while back. It meant to say so. Thank you.
Yeah, we just happened to come across it working on this one. And then section B, direct contact with the pool management as staff is made solely through the town manager or his or her designee, and in his or her absence through the secondary contact person. And letter C remains unchanged. So that's the ordinance. We can go over the policy before you do the ordinance if you'd like, since it does refer to,
Before we do that, can we just look at some of the language for a second, if that's okay? I'm on page 34 of 50. I'm looking at item H. We use the term weed eating, and that's sort of like limiting us to a certain activity. A weed eater is a brand name. If we could say like weed trimming or something like that in lieu of that. Trust me, I mean, you know, you don't Xerox, you photocopy. You know, we say Xerox, it's a verb, but I'd like us to change that
it's
to weed
old
trimming.
language.
It is, but I think it's necessary for someone who's going to be picayune on the other side of the equation. Do we also want to ask those who maintain the field to be responsible for core aeration? Meaning like pulling the plugs from the field to?
No,
We don't want to do that, all right?
no.
I'm going to item I regarding removing trash. Do we want to give direction beyond that? I mean, if they're sitting at the edge of the park, they've removed it. I mean, do we want to give them more direction than that?
Well, it does address in the future park use, their reservation form, that if they don't do these items, they could not be allowed back to use the field.
Okay, well,
I
no,
mean-
what I'm saying is that they could take it off the field and put it at Briggs's backyard. Sorry, Briggs. But, you know, they could leave it there versus trash it, like, you know, deposit it appropriately. You follow what I mean? Like,
We can change the language, I mean, I think,
I know I'm being picayune, but I can literally see someone who, sometimes these things are driven by personality versus logic. And I'm trying to cut that off at the knees.
How do you want to word it?
I would submit appropriately disposing of it. Okay. Remove and appropriately dispose of trash.
It's just putting it in my.
Well, my definition, I mean, if we're going to be nitpicky, my definition of properly disposing might be different than yours.
You're right. Yeah, I agree.
So,
I agree.
I mean, do we need to seriously say place all trash in receptacle?
Anybody? If I'm being too nitpicky, jump on me with both feet. I'll take it.
I think you're being too nitpicky.
All right. I withdraw then. All right. Fair enough. Okay. Weed trimming. Can we at least deal with that so we're not dealing with a brand name?
Can we
Like-
just say weeding?
Well, then when would weeding satisfy it?
I'll do weed trimming. I'll give
All
you
right.
that
Good.
one.
Okay. Fair enough.
I have a question. I'm sorry, Mr. President, are you?
Go for it. Yes, sir.
Are
Keep
you
going.
finished?
For the moment.
I know I asked this question before. Voting district, that's anyone in the town limits, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So if you're able to vote in a town election, it's,
Right.
that
If
area,
you live
okay.
in the incorporated limits of the town of Emmitsburg,
okay.
which is in the voting district.
Not necessarily 21727.
Correct.
Okay. I know that's common sense, but I just want to, I
Right.
try to make it rack my brain. Okay.
So I have a question about that. And yeah, sorry.
There you go.
Yes. A shocker, I know.
Sorry.
So I'm thinking about the hunting licenses and the fishing licenses.
Different.
And that's exactly. and I'm-
Completely different.
Right. So for those, we allow people in the zip code to have access
Anybody
to those?
can fish. Anybody can fish.
All right.
In the state of Maryland, as long as you have a fishing license.
Yeah.
Terrific. Okay.
The hunting, it is anyone in the 21727 zip code.
Okay.
Now, if you want to change that, I can bring that back to you at,
Nope. I just
Some
want
other
to make
point.
sure that I know.
yes, yes. So
We're-
that is the 21727
Okay.
zip code.
Okay. The other item I have is, I'm on page 35 of 50, item L, in a timely manner.
If you get done playing ball at 8 o'clock at
Sure.
night,
Right?
I don't want you calling
No, of course.
Jimmy Click at 8:30, 9 o'clock and say something's wrong. He's not gonna be happy. So in a timely manner,
So could we say the next business day? Would that be reasonable? I mean, that way there's no lag time, but it's
well,
also
I mean, you say
not-
if you restricted the next business day, I mean, common sense, I'm hoping that, you know, if it's something of a serious nature, you're not gonna wait the next business day. You know, you come across something on Friday night, you're gonna call in, but if
But then
it's
you are
not-
calling Jimmy Click.
Huh?
But then you are calling Jimmy Click.
If it's an emergency,
Sure,
you're
sure,
gonna
sure.
call in here and leave a message, or you're gonna get the number. We can write next business day.
Okay, let me ask. Anyone have concern with that one versus in a timely manner?
Next business day makes sense. I mean, we're already making one change, right? Weed eating.
Yes.
Okay.
That's it. We're good. Anybody else?
Commissioner
Trying to
O'Donnell's,
protect you, I promise. I really am. I promise. Okay, so, we've done this for consideration. Any other comments from the
As long
board?
as you adopt it with the modified changes, I
Sure,
don't care.
sure. Anybody willing to make the motion to,
Well, can we, since it does refer to policy 18-01,
correct, okay.
let's review policy 1801 before you adopt that. So, policy 18-01, there's just, like I said, there's just two minor changes to the policy that's in the packet. This policy will replace previously adopted policy 17-01. It should read policy 17-02 in relation to ball field charges only. Because 1702 is a combination of your park pavilion and your ball fields.
Okay.
So we're going to separate the two. Next month, I'll bring back the park one just to update it. So policy 1801 will be strictly ball field reservation fees. And so what we did, like I said, we did a lot of research, a lot of talking to different people, talked to John Clapp. And what we did is we broke out the ball field usage fees. You have people that use it one time, single time use, family reunion, church, they have one time use of it. And then you have leagues or organizations that want to use it on a seasonal basis, maybe several weeks in a row. So we broke it out into single day use and then we broke it out into league use and then tournament use. Single day use, profit organizations, and $10 an hour and 100% refundable if the field and or surrounding area is left in good condition. And our research showed most places are charging per the hour as opposed to per the day, because then you could reserve it all day and be there for an hour, and then it's not getting any use. Residents from the Emmitsburg voting district, $10 an hour, 50% refundable if field and surrounding area is left in good condition. Typically, they reserve the field for 2 hours. Non-residents, not from the Emmitsburg voting district, it's $20 an hour. League use, for a resident, a league address based in the Emmitsburg voting district, it would be $50 per team, per field, per season. So if you had 3 teams using 3 fields, it'd be $150 for the season. A non-resident league where the league address is not based in the Emmitsburg voting district, $100 per team, per field, per season. Again, if they've got 3 teams, 3 fields, it's $300 for a whole season. Tournament use, a youth tournament, any ages 17 and under, it's $50 a day. And then an adult tournament, 18 years of age and older, is $75 a day. Proof of federal 501c3 status, that's your nonprofit status, and liability insurance in the minimum amount of $1 million per occurrence may be required with a registration. The availability of fields is on first come, first served basis, with the applicants from the Emmitsburg voting district given first priority. Some of the same things we addressed in the ordinance. Same field cannot be reserved for 7 consecutive days. 1 day must remain open for public use. Facility used must be returned to its original condition except for normal wear. If this is not allowed, the town may retain all refundable fees and may decide not to allow future use to the applicant. And that's your policy.
We're good. All right. Anybody else have any concerns or comments related to the policy, related to the fees? No.
I
Okay.
forget the original policy. I forget the original policy.
25, what is it, 25? Oh, Ms. Shaw has copies of them.
I'm going to call you Radar O'Reilly.
No. Trust me. This is always a good.
Thank you.
I remember the pavilion fees,
Right.
but I don't remember. Thank you.
There's just a small blurb in there about your ball fields. I think it was is it $25?
Correct.
Yes. Well, that's all it was then.
Right.
It's all right.
Okay, so we see the item in front of us. We see the former policy, the existing policy. Anybody have any concerns about modifying the policy to what's been recommended by staff?
Well, my only 2 questions. One, if we don't adopt the policy tonight, are we able to adopt the ordinance? Since the ball fields aren't really being used, except, well, we have some presentations this
Well,
evening.
that's the thing, is that previous league use has started in March. So we, unless there's, and obviously if you have concerns over the policy, it's up to you whether or not you want to adopt it or not. The reason it is here in February is because the league use, ball field use predominantly starts about 1st of March to middle of March.
Getting close.
But this year, we're not.
Well, that's not necessarily the case. Obviously, agenda item number 4
Okay.
addresses that.
I just remember there was a lot of discussion regarding the pavilions. I believe we had like 2 weeks. We went over it and thought about it. I mean, does anyone else have any concern with these numbers tonight?
I'm not concerned. I mean, if there's a specific concern that you have, is it the cost of the fees being increased, or,
No, I mean, we just,
I mean, let me ask it another way, and I'm not trying to put you too hard on the spot, but is there a specific concern or set of concerns that you have related to what's proposed?
not a concern of mine,
Okay.
a concern of potential concerns of users.
Okay,
Have they seen these numbers? And we're voting on this, and no one knows about these numbers.
okay. Well, on the one side, I could give you sort of the blanket remark, like, these have been posted, and it seems that the discussions with the current baseball leagues, there's an awareness that it's a current event. I think there's representation in the room. I don't know if we're going to go in that direction, but, it's been publicly advertised appropriately. It's been made public record, accessibility-wise, both online and through the town office. So if someone were concerned, and I understand what you're saying, they did have the opportunity. Were they aware to take advantage of the opportunity? I can't speak to that. However, in my judgment, the fees seem very much in line with similar things that I had seen back when I was on Parks and Recreation, that we were a pretty affordable option for field use.
Okay.
Now, I don't think we have to be competitive with the marketplace. I don't think that's the big issue. But I think maybe, if I understand the mayor's intent on this, is that we're trying to address the cost of maintaining these parks.
Yes.
And we're trying to make sure that we can provide the best parks available to any user group, but especially, the good citizens of Emmitsburg. So does that kind of make sense? I mean,
Yeah, it makes sense.
We're trying to catch
I mean,
up to
and
a
no
cost.
one came to voice their concern. You didn't field anything through the office,
No.
correct? Okay.
And we did promote it on, as we normally do, up on Facebook and up on the website as well, and got the word out to, various organizations that this was going to come forth. I think the fees are reasonable. They are.
think so, too.
They are lower than some of the ones that we did see. And if you look at the policy, the current policy was $25 for the field. Right now, it's, for town residents, it's $10 an hour. So if they use it for 2 hours, it's still cheaper than what they would have normally paid.
And Mr. Ritz, one other sort of addition to this is, should we find that we are so far out of line that it's driving use away, we can modify it. As a board, we can come back and make this an agenda item and get in line with what, maybe what the needs are.
Okay.
Does that help?
Sure.
To a point, okay. I see the look.
I just remember being in violation myself as a kid, sometimes playing on those fields.
Very good. All
I
right.
guess the statute of limitations is unclear.
Fine. Okay, so with that in mind, is there a motion to accept?
One more thing.
Yes, sir, sorry.
Okay, the paragraph at the bottom, but the organization, proof of insurance may be required. Why is it may be?
Because what's being done is for your single use, your families, your things like that obviously don't have $1 million liability policy. It's written on our field use agreement that we encourage you to either, have your own insurance, and things like that. But your larger organizations that are going to have a lot of youth playing, that are going to be
Yes.
using the fields frequently. This was what John Clapp's recommendation was. He went even as far as to say is that, you know, there may come a time that you require $1 million policy from anybody that utilizes your fields.
So then Mr. Clapp is saying not to say any organization defined as a 501c3
No, what it
status
is
shall
what we're
be-
saying is you may be required to prove nonprofit status, and you may be able to prove or provide liability insurance. Not everybody's required to prove either one of those, but you may be required.
Okay.
Depending on who you are and what you're, if you're claiming nonprofit status, then you have to provide your nonprofit paperwork. If you're a league that's going to use it on a seasonal basis, you are going to be required to submit $1 million policy.
Okay. So he was fine with this, or did he write this paragraph?
He wrote that, well, he wrote the sentence,
Okay, well then that's fine.
and we added the other part.
All right, thanks, that's it. That's all I have.
Okay. So now, is there a motion to move forward on this?
On the
Policy?
01 or,
You need to do both.
1801.
You need to do your ordinance and your policy
Correct.
separately.
And we need ordinance first, and we need policy second, is
Either
that
one,
correct?
yeah.
Okay.
so I'll make a motion to accept the ordinance 1802 as presented,
As modified.
as
That's
modified.
modified. Very good. Is there a second for the motion?
I second it.
The motion's been made by Commissioner Buckman, it's been seconded by Commissioner Sweeney. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone against? The motion carries 5-0. Thank you. All right, now, we have the policy item. Is there a motion to accept the policy as presented?
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if Kathy can answer or not. And instead of, can you put do we have to put on the ones you can't provide the insurance if we ask for it or for the 1-day use? Like for a reunion or something like that?
It's on the reservation request that,
Play at your own risk?
hold on, where's it? Give me 1 second.
I think that should be put on there. 'Cause, they don't have no insurance.
Well, it says the customer hereby agrees to indemnify and hold harmless all employees, officials, administrators, and governing bodies of the town of Emmitsburg for damages or injuries they must suffer as a result of the use of the ball fields. The town of Emmitsburg recommends that each family and/or team carry adequate insurance in case of an emergency. And that's on their reservation request. Everybody has to sign the reservation request.
Okay.
And they get a copy of this as well.
And that is at your own risk. I mean, that's
Yes.
pretty contingency.
All right.
Okay.
Can't be too careful these days.
No, I know that the Emmitsburg Thermont League has merged. Will they also get in town, since it's gonna
No.
be our, no?
No. And that's coming up, next agenda item.
Oh,
Okay. So, returning to the question, is there a motion related to the policy as presented?
I make a motion to accept policy number 18-01 as presented.
Very good, thank you, sir. Is there a second for the motion?
I'll second the motion.
Very good. The motion has been made by Commissioner Sweeney. It's been seconded by Commissioner Blanchard. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anybody against? No. The motion carries 5-0. We now turn to our next agenda item related to, I want to get the name correct. Sorry.
Baseball fields.
Page 38.
Thank you, sorry. Agenda item 5, request to use baseball fields in 2018 for consideration.
All right, let me, I'll kind of get it started here. So, we received a email letter from Emmitsburg Baseball and Softball. Unfortunately, don't have the date of the letter, on me. It was about a month ago, would you say, Mr. Mayor? We
Right.
received a letter?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't remember that.
No,
early.
we didn't get it that early from them. So we received an email from the Emmitsburg baseball and softball very early part of this year. And their letter basically says, over the years, there's been much discussion about Emmitsburg baseball and softball merging with Thurmont Little League. Through the devoted efforts of a few, Emmitsburg baseball and softball has managed to somehow survive the dwindling number of players and volunteers. But the time has now come to merge the two. This will allow the Emmitsburg children to continue playing with their friends and classmates on their age-appropriate teams. Discussion has taken place between Emmitsburg baseball and softball and Thurmont Little League, and a merger has been agreed upon. Because Thurmont Little League is its own entity, any softball players will be referred to Catoctin Softball. This merger will take place immediately. There will not be a spring 2018 league in Emmitsburg. Children will be encouraged to contact the Thurmont officers to play. Thanks for your support over the past years, Emmitsburg baseball and softball. So we received that email from them. And then shortly after that, we received an email letter from Mr. Johnson of the Thurmont Little League. And then we also received requests from field use requests from Mid-Maryland United, who came up here and gave us a PowerPoint presentation to myself, the mayor, and Ms. Shaw over their request to utilize the fields as well. So I'll just go over these real quick, and then you can, however you want to handle it is fine. Dear Emmitsburg Council, I'm currently the president of Thurmont Little League and have been in talks with Sandy Umble about the possibility of merger. Because of this merger, Thurmont will be gaining in size and would like to work with the town by using the fields for several years to come. Our plan is to not only use the fields for practice, but also games. We have also had talks with the Challenger Division about holding a tournament. If we're able to secure the fields, I plan working them to hold their tournament in Emmitsburg. Not sure of the exact specifics, but rather a large event. Thurmont Little League is looking to use 3 baseball fields Monday through Friday in the evenings for practices and games, as well as those same fields on Saturdays. For the same reasons, Sundays will not be a necessity, except on certain occasions. Can get Sundays dates if needed. I have also talked to Mayor Briggs in regards to changing the name of Thurmont Little League to another name that incorporates both towns. At this time, as stated to him in a phone call, that is not an option. We can reevaluate this in a couple of years, but now this would not pass with my board of directors. I look forward to working with Emmitsburg and reviving baseball in your great town. And then we received a email. These email requests came from Mr. Lowry after we met with him, and he brought his PowerPoint up. Summarize, thank you to take time to speak with me. I greatly appreciate it. As a follow-up from our meeting, I would like to request permission to utilize the town ball fields. In particular, Mid-Maryland United would like to utilize the 69 ball field on Willow Drive in the community park. That is the one that is directly, no, that's the one in the back corner, the Babe Ruth, or not the Babe Ruth field, but the back corner. The 50-70 ball field, which is currently all dirt on the Willow Drive at the community park, that's the one that's directly behind the town office that's in need of some repair. And the use or part-time use of the Little League ball field on Memorial Drive. Per our conversation, we'd be willing to maintain the ball fields under whatever conditions the town feels is in the best interest. Additionally, we will work with the town of Emmitsburg to make capital improvements at these locations that further improve the future use of the ball fields that meet the town's need. We will also work with the town of Emmitsburg to provide baseball clinics to the youth of the town with no cost to the children. I welcome the opportunity to secure the obligations required for our organization to utilize these ball fields. And then there's his PowerPoint attached that kind of goes over what their team is and what their organization is. One bullet point that we talked about was they give back to their communities over $15,000 over the past 12 months. And I'm sure the representative from Mid-Maryland is here as well. Some of the things that he showed us, some of the projects are on page 43. The building of the sheds, repairing of the fields, the maintenance of the fields. They provide maintenance to the fields. They help raise funds for the town parks and rec programs. They're interested in providing some community service to the town. And as I mentioned before, free clinics to the youth. And they want to work with the community and reach out to coaches to help restore Emmitsburg baseball and softball to its original state in the town, bring baseball back to the community. Page 45 talks about some of the other things that they want, or that they do. Page 46, 46 through 48 talk about the fields that they are interested in. The Willow Drive field, that's the field that, I'm turning, I'm all backwards today.
The 57,
That's the dirt field. And then the
5070?
other,
Is that the 5070?
yes, this, the first one, 46, is the 5070, which is in desperate need of work. And then that's their plan, if you look at page 46 for that field, then their plan for, so that field, they're requesting 5 days a week. The plan for the Memorial Drive field, the Little League field, it's for a 10-year-old team, and it'd be 5 days a week. And both of them, they do maintain the fields. They add ball, dirt, they sod and sod cut uneven parts of the field, add sod where needed. And then the request for the use of the larger 60-90 field, which is in the back part of the community park. They're looking at 3 days a week when it's available, and also maintain that field. Page 49 talks about their goals again. And I think if you would like to entertain each of their comments, then we can have some further discussion.
Sure, okay. Well, we're going to go in order regarding who signed up. So I'm going to ask Mr. Darren Beachley to please come forward. Mr. Beachley, welcome. I'll offer you some items that we'll need you to do. Please identify yourself
All right,
and your home address. Also, if you have questions, please direct them to myself or the board and not to staff.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
I'm Darren Beachley. I'm the president of Mid-Maryland United Baseball. Good evening, Mayor Briggs, council, or commissioners. As you can see, I didn't know how much I was going to have to talk about the PowerPoint, but apparently it's all gone through, and I don't have to go over much of it. So I'm here to answer any questions that you folks might have. That's why I'm here tonight. We are probably the biggest growing baseball organization in the state of Maryland at this point, maybe in the region. In 2014, I put a team together. We left the Frederick Hustlers and decided to do something on our own. And as of today, actually, I just signed an 8th team, so we've grown 800% in just 3 years. So we're growing a lot, which comes with growing pains, of course, which is naturally fields and things of that nature. We are operating a 60,000 square foot indoor facility up at Cascade at Fort Ritchie as well. We just AstroTurfed the inside of that. So we've got a lot of good things going on for baseball, and we've helped, I don't know how many high schools we work with, but we've given them sheds, we've given them AstroTurf in their batting cages, we've put dirt on their fields. Baseball infield mix, they have a certain request. Sometimes it's $3,500 a truckload, but we always work with I think anybody you would talk to out of the county, high school fields would tell you that we work with them extensively to get with their needs, because we get to use their fields, and we really appreciate them doing that with us. So,
So you will be using the Little League main field?
the request is for the 3 fields, yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
There's no softball, just all baseball?
All baseball right now. I've started looking at a 12-year-old softball program next. We're talking about that. We haven't gone that far yet. So it's all baseball at this point. Yes, sir.
We do have room for them if you need to put and then you'll be using the 2 fields over here?
Yes, sir. We would like to.
Will you be using the concession stand also?
That far, that conversation hasn't been had by anyone. It certainly could be something that could be talked about. I don't know if we've gone that far as far as the conversation.
I do, not for him.
Okay.
Before I ask him another question, is the Emmitsburg Little League Association, did they leave everything in the concession stand outside?
As far as I know, they have, and I know with talks with Mr. Lowry, that their interest is to put money back into the Emmitsburg Little League, if there's an account or organization or a person to help start funding the program again. And the status of the concession stand, I'm pretty sure they left everything there.
Yeah,
We have not been over to check it yet.
It does have an operating, scoreboard.
Wonderful.
It did have an operating scoreboard. Does have a batting cage. at
Okay.
the end of it. That was new. I took a picture. The last things, new fences have been put up. The bathrooms have been all redone. I do know that. Over here, we have porta potty, or we have a central bathroom up here in the middle that's open during the daytime.
Okay.
Commissioner Sweeney, can you pull your mic
Oh,
closer?
Sorry. I was just concerned, what was gonna be used, and if he's gonna utilize the whole, if he would be coming in here, will he use the whole thing as the Emmitsburg Little League it used to before?
We haven't gone that far with a discussion that far about it. First of all, it was about getting fields because we've grown so fast. It's trying to, get, what we can. And since those three teams are located in this part of the county, pretty much, we decided to, Ed decided, he said, hey, let's talk with Emmitsburg and we'll see what we can come up with. So that's what we did. Our organization is really about the kids. All of us are volunteers. I come from that background, volunteering. The first group of kids, I have the oldest team. This is the last year that I'm in the dugout, actually, and then I go into a advisory role, which is good. I've gotten 5 kids signed to scholarships, baseball. I have another 3 that are about to sign, which would be a good thing. That happening means that it's been my belief since we started this thing, if you put more time into those kids, they go away to school, they'll come back, make you a better community overall. And that's really what we're about. And, I give a lot of time to this, and my wife tells me sometimes, does it ever stop? And no, it doesn't ever stop. But yeah, so we haven't gone that far talking about anything else. We just basically at the fields at this point. She mentioned the number of $15,000 back last year. It may be even more than that. I use that as a round number of the projects we did, but there was other things that we did, especially with the AstroTurf and things to the indoor facility. It may be more than that, but.
Can you talk about a little bit about the clinics you guys might offer for free for our kids?
Absolutely. We have offered clinics before, and we were doing clinics this winter for as a fundraiser for our folks. But what we would do, and we would set up baseball clinics. It might be a 3-day thing or a 2-day thing during the week, maybe a weekend or something. And we bring in former minor league baseball players, pitchers, hitters, and depending upon the age group that we would decide, it's been my experience that 9 to 13 is a really good age group to do it, because that's really when the formative ages are of baseball. So if we can get in that age group, we bring in some former minor league players that know a lot more than a lot of us do, and let them do some teaching. I think it's a good time, make it fun for the kids. At the end of the day, usually have games and things like that against each other to see if they can display what they've learned a little bit. I was a part of America's Pastime Baseball Camps at one point, so I'm familiar with running camps. So we've done that, some indoor stuff this winter. We haven't done anything outdoor yet, but we would be interested in doing that for the town and getting the kids involved back in youth baseball, because the truth is travel baseball is wonderful, but youth baseball is really what makes the sport go. So,
Mr. Sweeney, backing up to your question, did you get your question answered regarding the field and the concessions and all that?
Yeah, I was just, if the organization's coming in, it's good for fundraising too, for you to concession stand.
as well, yes, it is. Yep.
Because it'd be a shame to leave it sit there and rot away.
If it's there, we would use it if we were allowed to use it. I would probably step out on the limb and say that, being the president of the organization, I can make that decision, but I would have to talk with the other guys that are going to do that. Yes, sir.
And then you would have open enrollment for our kids here, if you would be coming in.
There's always open enrollment. We always are looking for baseball players. We don't have a closed season. If I like a kid and it may be 3 games into the season, if we like a kid, we'll take them.
Oh, okay.
So we don't have an open,
So you don't have
closed.
to worry about if you.
No, you don't have to have it by a
registration,
certain
you
date.
come
If there's a
play.
kid that's interested, then maybe that can
Good
happen.
to know, because you might have somebody new moves to town.
You could.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think we've got 12 or 13 Emmitsburg kids in the program now, and there's 30 Catoctin kids that go to Catoctin High School from the feeder program in our program out of 100 kids, which is substantial, actually.
Mr. Ritz, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I have a few questions. So your organization, it's a region.
It is.
So you using Emmitsburg's facilities then, Emmitsburg wouldn't have a team though. It would just be individual children from Emmitsburg then could be on
Correct.
teams, but those teams
There would not be. It would not be called Emmitsburg United. It's Mid-Maryland United Baseball.
and you're based out like where were they? They just go where do they play?
The three teams that we're talking about working here mostly are centered from this area. These three teams are located from northern Frederick County. You've got the 13-year-old team, Ed Lowry runs that team. The
That's
12-year-old team, Tim Caslow runs that team. And the 10-year-old team, Ryan Farrell runs that team.
Okay.
So they are all located in this area.
Okay.
So all those kids are basically from within this area. They're not, they're
Now
not
you
too far away.
mentioned use of the little league field, but it sounds like the teams that you referenced were older.
10 years old would be
Okay,
the
so-
youngest one.
So then you would be using the little.
10, 12, and 13s.
Okay. I think we're going to have a presentation from someone from Thurmont Little League, or maybe a public comment later. So
Okay.
I don't know. Is that might be conflicting with use of the field?
Yeah.
Don't know about the season.
Sure.
What's your season usually go to?
Yeah, that's
Kathy actually hit the nail on the head. It's usually mid-March. The younger teams usually start a little earlier than the older teams. The older teams are in high school baseball, so we don't start anything with those guys till June 1st. But the younger kids usually start mid-March. Some of them have tournaments in mid-March.
okay.
Yeah, so they start mid-March, but with that happening, they usually shut down probably July. So
I have a question, and this is through a conversation with Mr. Lowry. I believe his intent through your organization is to get coaches that are interested in revitalizing
Yes, ma'am.
Emmitsburg Little League so that we can
Yes, ma'am.
have a homegrown team again.
yes, ma'am,
Is
it
that
absolutely
correct?
is. Yeah, Ed and I have we've had extensive talks about that. As I said, travel baseball is a wonderful thing, but youth baseball really, without it, it doesn't happen. Baseball doesn't work. You got to have the youth involvement as far as the rec involvement or little league involvement or whatever it might be.
Maybe it's too early to jump the gun here, but future Emmitsburg baseball, you're looking little league specifically, not Cal Ripken.
Oh, I don't know. That would be a conversation I would have to see.
Okay.
I've been involved in both.
Okay.
Both of them have their pros. I think every kid should have a chance to play little league baseball. I think it's a wonderful thing. But Cal Ripken's an awful nice baseball league too. Depends on what you're looking at. If you're looking for involvement, fine. If you're looking for competitiveness, I think Cal Ripken's a little more competitive. It actually teaches the game a little more at 12 years old than it does if you take the 12-year-old Little League champion against the 12-year-old Cal Ripken champion. I'd have to say the Cal Ripken champion usually is a better team.
Okay.
That's just my belief.
All right.
Only an opinion.
What are the qualifications for the children? I mean, you try out, right?
We do have a tryout.
Okay.
Qualifications are you sign up. There's no charge for trying out. And we keep, I think Ed had 80 some kids try out for his team this year. So we don't,
Okay.
we keep maybe 15. So we keep 15 per team.
No, that's good.
My team, I've got 22 because now at that age when they get older, a lot of them are just pitchers. They don't play anywhere else. So, yeah, there's really qualifications. If you can play baseball at a certain level, then, and there's a safety thing involved. You want to make sure that everybody can play at a certain level. You don't want to put a kid at third base that's not.
Well, no, I
Yeah.
agree with that too. Obviously, you want the strongest
Sure.
team you can have. I know one
Sure.
of the selling points of the PowerPoint, is to help bring back baseball.
We would help rebuild your guys' program. I mean, this is really, for Mid-Maryland to start using your fields, but we would really try to help rebuild your program. And I don't know, I don't know what the age factor of most of the kids are in your area. So I don't know if it's 9's a good starting age, 10's a good start. I don't know. I have no idea at this point. Ed would probably be able to give me better numbers than that.
Okay, Mr. Ritz, I'm going to interrupt for a second. We're going to step back. Please don't leave the podium for a second. Commissioner Buckman, you have a question regarding clarification. Is that
Yeah,
right?
I hope I'm not the only one confused, because that would be embarrassing. So what I'm seeing here is happening is Emmitsburg baseball has been just no attendance. We've been trying to keep it alive. And we were frustrated. We decided we're going to merge with Thurmont because all those kids are going over there. But someone has this passion to just keep Emmitsburg baseball alive, and that's you. Or are they conflicting? Are we like just,
We're talking about facilities at this point, and then rebuilding your youth baseball program.
So there are two different groups that we're talking about. So we're
Correct.
also going to hear from the Thermont representative. So what's being presented now is one possibility for use of our fields in town. This organization, it sounds to me like it's sort of a competitive level of a travel type team.
It is.
You have like a select side
Which
where you
would
have
be different than
a
the
fil-
Thermont.
which is different, I believe, from the Thermont model. Now, I'm not going to speak for them yet because we want to hear from them also. But the other issue is, it sounds to me that what we're being presented with tonight is we're being asked to consider one organization versus another organization for utilization of our fields. So we're in sort of no, not a quandary, but a position of judgment.
Good word.
I mean,
It's
we're
not
analyzing what's best.
necessarily that you have to choose one over the other. I mean,
That's
we
true.
have,
Both
we
use
have,
the field?
we have
that
fields. And just a little bit of clarification with the Emmitsburg Little League, there's, through discussions with several different representatives involved in Emmitsburg Little League, that there basically were two governing forces in Emmitsburg Little League. And yes, the attendance had dropped off. I think you had some people not involved anymore. You had lack of parental involvement that drove it more so than your children involved.
They also changed from Little League to.
Correct. So there was a lot of other things. It's
That's
not
different.
necessarily lack of interest in baseball in this town. So we're trying to capitalize on that.
Does that add clarity for you?
Does that help?
it adds clarity.
Yeah, see, everyone plays in the Little League. Now, they all have to play now. You have to play everyone that, as far as I know, I think they changed it where everyone has to play
They do.
at some point through the game.
That's correct.
But it
Yeah.
didn't have to, it wouldn't
I think it's
be that way.
one at bat, 6 defensive outs
Yeah.
or something like that, right?
And yours is you have to try out, and the best ones get picked for the team.
For our ball club,
You had 80 people try out.
84, we kept 15.
Then 50, and all the rest of them have to go back into the tryout either for other leagues or go into Little League.
Actually, wherever they went, yeah, I think some of them, I think the Frederick Hustlers built their team on everyone we cut. So I think that they also found a home there as well. So, yeah.
So you couldn't make more teams if.
We thought about that, actually. We talked about a B team, but financially for us, it wasn't it wasn't doable to run that many teams at one time.
So your kids don't pay anything when if they.
Oh, no, my kids, they pay.
Okay, and that's kind of where I'm curious. So
Right.
is it okay for me to jump in? Okay. So numbers involved. Right now, how many
Yeah.
kids are involved in your program?
Just over 100. Ed's got 90 there, but we just signed a 9-year-old team to come in and start working with us. So it's going to be over 100 kids.
And the fee per player to be involved is how much?
$1,000 a player to play for us.
Okay, so $1,000. Okay.
Yes.
So moving from there, the ages you're talking about team level at 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds, and 13-year-olds, that's what you presently have?
That's for the Emmitsburg. Actually, what I have is from 9 years old to 17 years old.
Okay, but all right, so what you're proposing for here is 10, 12, 13?
And
is that
13s, yes,
correct?
sir.
Okay, all right. The fund source for your ability to do these things for,
We're-
baseball programs,
We're funded by sponsors
Okay.
as well as player fees, but most of the player fees go right back into uniforms and tournaments.
so who would your sponsors be, for example?
We have a lot of sponsors. We have, Frederick Brickworks. I can have a list of
Okay.
car companies and things like that. It's individual sponsors. We're a 501c3, so we go out and we solicit sponsors.
Okay, all right. And that's your fund source for your give back to the community, is that accurate?
Yes,
Okay. You mentioned your start time mid-March, sounds accurate.
for these 3 teams, yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
And their end time would be June?
I'm going to say June, July. I
Best
don't
guess.
have
Okay,
a
fair enough. Fair enough. Softball, are you guys willing to commit to starting softball?
I would be willing to commit that. In fact, I have a coach that 2 coaches that were college softball players that we had talked to about a 12-year-old team at one point. I don't know what age group we would even consider start. I don't know what the demographic is for what age groups would be interested in doing that. My daughter played college softball, so it's a passion of mine too as well.
And
Yeah.
that would be softball here in Emmitsburg, correct?
We could do that.
Okay, all right. So that's the commitment I'd be looking for. I mean,
Okay.
that would be very persuasive to me.
All right.
And clinics, how many clinics are you speculating about?
We had talked about maybe 2. Ed and I had talked about 2 clinics through the summer. Depending on if it's a weekend clinic or during the week, sometimes they like the camper thing where they come and they leave the kid for half a day or all day or whatever.
And going back to the sponsors, about how much are they paying? I mean, what is there?
I have 3 different level sponsors. I have a $350, a $500, and a $1,000 sponsorship levels, and we get quite a bit from our
Sure.
sponsors.
No, understood.
Yeah.
Understood. It sounds like you have a very good model to fund it.
We do, yeah.
If a kid doesn't have the means to pay that $1,000,
It's funny. You should ask that. There's been several kids that have played for me over the years that don't have the money, that want to play baseball, that I feel like deserve an opportunity, and we have done that for them in the past.
and the scholarships you're talking about are to high school or to college?
Colleges.
College, very good. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions from the
We
board?
do have a senior league field here. You wasn't planning on using that at all, maybe?
Senior League.
That's the one that I think they're,
I mean, we
Back
had
here.
all the 17, 18, or 13 and to 18-year-olds played over there on the big major.
The large field, yeah, that's a big field.
It's one of the ones they're interested
Yeah.
in.
Hmm.
It's the same size as the old Baltimore Orioles.
It's
field.
big, yeah. Anyone else?
any other questions, Mr. Mayor,
Just
or comments? I'm sorry.
very quickly, thank you for,
Yes,
thanks
sir.
for coming.
Yes, sir.
Could you give us a little background on Mr. Lowry? Just quickly,
Well, with Ed, I met Ed actually just the last 2 years. I've got to know Ed, and I know he was involved in Thurmont Little League as well, and I know that they were very successful in going to the Eastern Regionals last year. Ed also has been involved, I know, in the Emmitsburg Parks on some committees and as well. Ed coaches the 13-year-old team. He I don't know what, as far as talking about Ed, it's really hard to talk about Ed because I could be here all night and I don't want to do that. But I think he's got a passion for what we're involved in. He scouted and shopped for a program to be a part of. And I think he and I really have a passion for baseball. I asked him to be part of the board the minute that I met him because I knew what kind of guy he was, trustworthy, committed to what he's doing. And, I love people like that. So.
thank you.
And last thing I'll ask you, if you could repeat your name and your home address.
It's Darren Beachley, Pointe Rocks, Maryland.
Okay.
You need the address?
We need your street address, too.
1756 Brookshire Run, and that's Pointe Rocks, Maryland.
Terrific. Okay, thank
All
you.
right.
That's much appreciated.
Anybody else? All right.
Thank you for coming
Thank you,
up
sir.
tonight.
Yes, sir.
Very good. All right. So I now call Mr. Jeremy Johnson. And Mr. Johnson, so you know, you have the same time afforded to yourself. I approximate that to be about 15 minutes, so you know. Should you need it.
Yeah, it's whatever. Jeremy Johnson, 218 Moser Circle, Thurmont, Maryland. I represent Thurmont Little League tonight. I am at the total opposite end of the spectrum. Sounds like Mr. Beachley's been in this for several years. I have a 6-year-old son, so I've been in it for 2. I've been on the board for several years. Ed Lowry was the president at the time, or for 2 years. They asked me to be president this year. Sandy Humble contacted me over Facebook. Never met Sandy before that Facebook conversation about a possible merger between Emmitsburg Baseball and Thurmont Little League. Emmitsburg Baseball and softball and Thurmont Little League. I knew nothing. I'm not going to sit here and say that I knew what was going on because I honestly I didn't. So we sat down, we talked, and we proceeded together. I know nothing about what had happened on the Emmitsburg baseball softball side. I just know that Little League is in it for every kid, and if we can get kids to play together, that's a fabulous thing. So with that being said, her and I talked about, I know that you brought up the use of concession stands and fields, and if Thurmont Little League is acquiring these fields to utilize, we're going to treat them exactly like our home facility. I don't know if you've ever been to our home facility. We have 3 fields. One's a Babe Ruth field that our Little League kids do not play on. It's a 60-90 field. We work with them. They are part of the Frederick Babe Ruth Association. Every kid that signs up gets an opportunity to play within Babe Ruth. We also have 2 fields, and then we rent, lease, have an agreement with the town of Thurmont to use a couple other fields for practices and different things of that nature. But basically, we would treat those 3 fields, exactly like there are. I would want to prepare them ourselves. I know that that's the way that Sandy proposed it to me, was that all the equipment is there. We as an organization, I have a board of 15 deep, and I have volunteers that are willing to step up and help out across the board. So whether they're doing spirit wear for us or running concession stands or whatever it may be, I have a lot of volunteers that don't want to be on the board, but just want to come out and help because their son or daughter is playing, or grandson, or I actually have a board member that is 20 years old and doesn't have a kid on anywhere, and they just want to be a part of an organization. So if we get the use of the fields, we'll maintain them, clean them, prepare them. We would like to use the concession stand. I don't know the capacity in which I will use the fields. We will, but I can't plan for that right now because, there's no agreement that has been made. But I know that I've talked with Mayor Briggs extensively over several phone calls in regards to, using them for practices and games and just working to keep baseball within the town. So that's what I have. I can field any questions to the best of my knowledge.
Ms. Ritz, go ahead. Yes, sir.
Is your ultimate goal then to hopefully have a little league, like a merger, Emmitsburg, Thurmont, continuously, or is your ultimate goal the hope that Emmitsburg has its own little league team, so there's no need for a merger?
I don't know whether a merger was ever the correct terminology used, but to me that's just
Our
semantics.
kids have
so-
nowhere to go, so they're
Exactly.
going
So
to
it's
Thurmont.
almost like an absorption, but merger's fine. It doesn't. Semantics don't. I want kids to play baseball.
Okay.
So if that eventually means that I can build it up and have a board for Emmitsburg and a board for Thurmont, awesome. That's not necessarily my vision. My vision is more like what Mayor Briggs and I have talked about possibly changing the name down the road and incorporating all these kids to be able to play with each other. They play basketball together. They play soccer together.
Go to
They
school
play
together.
football together. They go to school together. I know that elementary kids do not go to school with Thurmont primary kids or Thurmont elementary kids, but once they get to middle school, they're all together.
Yeah.
Me personally, I would not like to see it be separated. I would like to see it be conjoined, and build my board accordingly.
How? I'm sorry.
Go for it. Yeah,
How?
continue.
Your charter with Little League, does that have to be renewed every so often, or is it?
Well, I've only been president for 3 months, so I'm learning as much as I can in a short period of time. But essentially, we have to recharter every year.
Every year, okay.
And we basically go off of some numbers in which we believe to be correct. So right now, I have 6 minors, which is basically 11 and 12. Some 9 and 10-year-old kids can come up. Excuse me, those are majors. And then I have 6 minors, which are typically 9 and 10-year-olds. Every once in a while, an 8-year-old will come up. There's safety issues and different things which we look at. And then I have 6 instructional, and then 6 T-ball. Boys and girls can play together. I know that one thing you talked about was softball. I'll bring that up now since I'm talking about it. That has been a push within Little League here recently.
What does that mean? I don't understand you. When you say it's been a push, there is no softball at this time?
Right now, through Thurmont Little League, there is no softball.
Okay.
There are other little leagues within our district too, that have softball teams. So they're encouraging us to start that. I have no issues moving forward with that and proceeding with that. It wasn't something I was going to take on this year. I've talked to a couple individuals that I've actually coached their daughters within T-ball or at the instructional level, and they're interested in proceeding with that. I'm not one of those pushy individuals that says, and bugging people to start a team, but I have had interest in that. But right now we are strictly baseball.
So the girls play all the other major league teams too as they go up through?
We don't have any girls at the minor and major league divisions, but they are able to play. We have had girls in the T-ball and instructional level, and then they typically have gone over to CYA softball or a travel organization of some sort.
Because you guys used to have, well, we had 3 teams, and you guys had at least 6 to 8 teams of girls softball.
Yeah, and I'm not sure when that had changed. I know that ever since I have been with the organization, we have not had a softball team.
For the last 2 years.
Yes, well, this is my 3rd year coming up. So the past 2 years, we have not had a softball team, and right now there's not one.
I
Currently.
think Emmitsburg did have a little league team for girls last year. For
Maybe
softball.
at the Emmitsburg,
We only had 1 team.
but not at the Thurmont, at Thurmont Little League.
I have
Mr. Ritz, go for it. Yes, sir.
2 more questions.
Sorry, hold
what-
on. Mr. Sweeney, Mr. Sweeney, were you done? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Fritz, yes, sir.
When does your season start?
It's
Practice and then.
Sure.
You know,
I know that currently, weather permitting, we always do a field preparation day. So once again, we'll come out, we'll prepare the fields. Once, if it snows 20 inches in March like it's known to do, then obviously we're not going to start. But tentatively, it's March 15th to March 20th is when we will start. And our season will typically go, depends on how far our all-star teams will go, but typically June, end of June to beginning of July. It's a very similar baseball schedule to Mr. Beachy.
And my last question, who appoints your board of directors?
Well, if somebody wants to come and the old saying go, you're not going to turn away help. So if they come and they show an interest, then our board will appoint that. So we'll, if they want to come and be field maintenance, let's say that I want to create a field maintenance position. Somebody steps up and says, yes, I'm willing to do that. Then the board will hear what that individual has to say, and then we will vote yay or nay on that individual. They have to do a background check through Little League to make sure that they're not a red flag.
Understood.
So
That's-
everybody within our organization is clear.
Okay.
So we're talking about state police fingerprinting and so on? Or?
We don't get through fingerprinting, but we go through social security numbers and all that, and there's a background check done through Little League. It's actually changing this year. I don't know what the procedure is going to
But
be
you might move to
moving
that.
forward.
Yeah.
But if there's a red flag, then
Sure.
sorry, I
Correct.
appreciate your help, wanting to help, but you can watch.
My specific question though was the board of directors for
Yeah.
for the
It's-
Little
it's-
League.
it's the
So
sa-
it's like all the volunteers that the manager of this or the manager of that they all automatically are board members then voting members.
No.
How does one become a voting member of the
Well,
Thurmont Little League organization?
Technically, anybody can vote. If they come to the meeting,
Okay.
they're allowed to vote.
Okay.
But if you want to be a board member to a position that we have designated, then you bring forth that information. The board will then vote, or whoever is there to vote on that individual. And then as long as they pass that background check, then they're part of our board. Because with our organization, the more the merrier to help out. Because it seems like it falls back on certain individuals frequently. So we want to try to get as much help as possible to give every kid the best potential to play baseball or softball, hopefully down the road.
Commissioner Buckman.
So it looks to me like you guys have a different niche. You're filling a different area. Have you guys talked? Have you decided, can you guys both be using the Emmitsburg fields? Can you work cooperatively on maintaining those fields? Is this a relationship that we can build, or is it either or?
I'm not saying I'm opposed to that. Am I allowed to speak?
Because I'm really overjoyed because our kids need things to do.
Sure.
And baseball and getting the baseball fields and people coming to the games and having the concessions, that's awesome.
Sure.
You're allowed to speak, absolutely. So please.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak completely for my board moving forward. I know that within the town of Thurmont, there are many teams that or many organizations that kind of come together and work with the fields. Now, obviously, with that said, I can't completely speak to my board, but that's not something that I believe that they would be opposed to.
So your board would have to vote if you were to share fields up here. Is that what you're saying?
I don't think that it would have to be a vote, but I would just like to.
Sure.
I want to be as translucent with my board as possible. I don't want to make a decision without them. I don't think that's
Understood.
fair to them. So I would just like to make sure that they're in agreement with the decision that I come back with you all.
Okay. Are you squared away? You're good? Okay.
I have a question. In your email, it doesn't address, you say that you want 3 baseball fields. Do you know which fields you are even interested in?
I can't remember. I like I say, I talked with Sandy and Mayor Briggs.
I mean, what age group?
We are basically every kid from 5 to 12, as long as they meet, they technically can be 13, but classified as a 12-year-old within the Little League parameters. So I know that there's a complex of 4 fields,
We have 6.
but there's one complex with 4 fields altogether, and there's a concession stand there, right? So those are the 3 fields, and then I believe that there's a softball field there with no grass.
It has a dirt infield.
Yeah, so.
It's got used for baseball also.
Sure.
Just putting a mound in.
Yeah, I'm talking about the other 3 fields within that complex.
Okay.
So you're not.
Any other
you're
questions?
Not planning on using the T-ball?
Well, Mr. Sweeney, hold on for a second. Any other questions from staff?
No, I mean, it's just difficult to prepare, to prepare if we don't know what fields they're interested in. That was my question.
Okay.
Because I think there could be a cooperative effort. We do have 6 fields, and
Well, no,
Maryland's interested in 3.
He's not going to be using the T-ball.
No, and if they're, I mean, we got 6 fields, if you split it 3-3, everybody gets a chance at some fields and everybody's happy. So I think there could be a cooperative effort.
I know that our biggest field is a 40-60.
The Maryland team wants to use the 2 main fields over here, correct?
Yes.
And the use of one of the Little League. We have 2 fields, I think, that are same over here.
Well, I don't have my map, and she asked me if I needed the map, and I said no, and now I wish I had the map.
Yeah, we made
Okay, so
this-
the T-ball field, which is over here, is I don't know, it's listed as a 46-60. Field 1
They
is
don't
the
have
one right
dugout.
behind us, correct? We don't have the map?
You didn't make one yet. I have one of just the ball fields and community.
Okay, so we have 6 fields. One is a 40-60 and a 60-90 all dirt infield. That's got to be the one back here. Field 3 is a 60-90. That's the one back here as well. Those 2 are the
Southgate.
ones that are that Mid-Maryland's interested. Field number 4 is a 43-60 and it's an all dirt infield. So that's got to be the softball field.
Yes.
Field 5, which is over there, is the 46-60. Is that the one you're? I don't know the field numbers, unfortunately. I'm not either.
Yeah.
Field number 6 is the T-ball field, which I mentioned. Field 7 is a 46-60 and a 50-70.
And I believe that the 46-60, the T-ball field, and then the one that can be utilized as a 46-60 and 50-70 are the 3 that I'm referring to.
Plus the all
Like I
dirt,
say,
the softball.
I talked to Sandy in regards to that.
So, the only question is, we do have T-ball field, and there's probably enough children in Emmitsburg to make a T-ball team,
Absolutely.
to play also without the other T-ball. All the fields have dugouts on them, every single one of the fields.
Yes.
Besides, because it used to be only 2 fields over there, we took 1 field out and made it into 3. We used to have 3 here, we just took 1 out here a couple years back. The one right directly behind here is now just a main, like a soccer and football field
Okay.
now. But,
Okay, so,
nice if they all get utilized,
sure.
Well,
not sit empty.
Well, I want to jump into just a couple quick things. Numbers involved in Thermont Little League at this time, approximately. Obviously, you don't need to know the square number, but
Approximately, we're going to have between 225 and 250 is my guess.
terrific. Okay,
Every kid that signs up gets to play.
great. Okay, and you said ages 5 to 12 with 13 paperwork.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. The fee per child playing, how does
It
that?
ranges from 75 up to 110.
Okay, and you gave us our start time. Again, I'm going to fall back to the softball thing. I mean, I just think, the reality is we're dealing with, 50% boys, 50% girls population demographic. It's important to me to hear that there's going to be a level of commitment to softball
Sure.
as much as there's going to be to
And
this.
and I'm not going to hide anything from you
Sure,
because
sure, sure.
that's not who I am. My fear moving forward is competition, because there are other organizations within this area, CYA, that's extremely successful. So the last thing I want to do is to have a rec league that constantly has to travel. So especially because we're in the northern end of the county, if I get one team, they might have to travel down to Montgomery
Sure.
County frequently
Sure.
because they're within our district.
Understood.
So my concern moving forward is to make sure that we have a level of competition, that we're not having a softball team just to have a softball team.
Well,
Does that make sense?
It does, but I don't agree with you. I mean,
Okay.
it's firstest with the mostest. I mean, if you get the girls, you get the girls.
Right.
The other side of it is, not disrespectful to you. I don't mean it that way. But
No,
I just think we've.
you're
gotta
not
get
gonna
af-
hurt my feelings.
Yeah, sure. Oh, very good. Okay, it's just we've got to get after the girls just as much as the boys. I think for the sake
agreed.
of fairness. The other piece is the issue being brought back to the board in a few years about the name issue. Just why that time period? I mean, why a few years? Why not this year? And why not? Has the question been put to the board about the name piece?
I talked to them at the last meeting, and they were in complete agreement with me on that. Thurmont Little League has been around for 54 years, whatever it may be.
Sure.
And so,
Hold on. Let him speak, please.
and so, Emmitsburg came to me. Thurmont is strong with our board and our participation. Like I say, I don't know what Emmitsburg had, so I can't speak to that. But moving forward, if we're going to continue this, then a name can be. But right now, this might falter, and somebody else might say, okay, next year, now Emmitsburg baseball is going to revitalize, and now all of a sudden, my name has changed for 1 year. It's not worth it moving forward right now.
I understand your argument, but I'm not going to agree with it again. Just
Perfect.
sort of, conditional.
Perfect.
Okay, so you guys are in transit on the name piece. Okay, we're good.
Cool.
Okay.
So there's no guarantee of that name change even happening. My concern, and this is just some discussions I've had with the mayor, is that, it's what is the goal? Is the goal to bring Emmitsburg Little League back, bring the name back and the team back to the town? And no disrespect to you, but you have Thurmont come up to play and have the fields. Does that diminish your chances of bringing a homegrown Emmitsburg Little League or Cal Ripken team back, because there's already the ease of access to a Thurmont team because they're here? What's the goal? Is the goal to bring back
Sure.
our homegrown team? And I think, speaking me personally, being a resident here and talking to other residents, I know that's the hope.
Right.
And I think that's what you have to take into consideration as well, is what your goals are ultimately.
But I do like your vision that you shared regarding getting the kids to play together. I mean, that's
Sure.
there's nothing wrong with that. I just think, understanding pride of place, and you get that. And
Absolutely.
the other piece is, I mean, you guys have achieved wonderful things, and the TV piece, it's unbeatable. So, but thank goodness you had Emmitsburg kids to get you there. Just saying, But nevertheless, Mr. Mayor, you're the only person we haven't heard in this discussion, and I really want to hear what you have to say about this.
You do?
I do.
Okay.
I do as well.
Okay. No, it's just about 4 years ago, Thurmont came up to Emmitsburg and asked Emmitsburg to join, and it would be called Catoctin, and they'd merge. And for some reason, the Emmitsburg faction said no. I think that was Mr. Lowry's first year. He has been president down there for 4 years, and that name is really important to all of us up here, and to revive it as soon as possible. And it just that E. I have 3 baseball caps with big E's on it, and as you have those with the T on it, and it's really important to bring that back here. I know with the other gentleman, we'll have 60 people playing baseball up here this spring with the softball team, and 15 on each team. And last year that's 4 times as much as we had last year. I think we had 1 team, and I'm just a little transparent about that too. The name, and it means a lot. I've heard a lot around town that, you know, if you went down there and put Emmitsburg baseball and using fields down there, and but we want you to, if we have excess, use them. And you know, but I really like the way that the way that Mid Maryland's going a little bit, you know, because they got the indoor facility, they're doing this, and they're getting scholarships. I think they have a gentleman on their staff who's a coach at Thurmont High School, Catoctin High School, yeah, and they're interested in coaching. You are too. This all goes with you too, and but those are just the sticking points about the name, and we've just got to beef it up and bring baseball back here. I mean, we've got pictures here when in the 50s when they were Little League out in our hall right here and everything like that to Emmitsburg, and they used to play Thurmont and Tawnytown. I think that's about where I am on it, sir.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate you clarifying that.
Can I wreck your phone or?
No, you don't try to play. You know, look how violent he gets, you know, just a wrecking machine. Mr. Sweeney, yes, sir.
I don't have a problem with them merging, but consider this: why couldn't Emmitsburg, even though you do merge, why couldn't the kids, if they have enough boys or girls to make a team, a minor league, or why wouldn't we just put them together but still play in the Thurmont League?
Because it
not even
defeats
changing the Thurmont name.
it defeats my purpose of my vision of the
You're not
kids,
going to be there forever, correct?
the kids playing together. Correct. I'm not going to be there forever. But my vision,
But
and
you're considering this, our kids probably are, you know, they live in Emmitsburg, and we don't want their name to be forgotten. Our town is here too.
and I feel for that. I'm on the board for Thurmont Little League. Unfortunately, Emmitsburg baseball and softball doesn't have a board, and so Thurmont Little League is represented. I'm sorry that Emmitsburg is not represented.
But you're saying that you couldn't put our kids all on one team to play
That's
with
not-
your guys.
With us.
Okay.
No.
With you.
No. No. We already have Emmitsburg kids that are coming down and playing in Thurmont Little League.
I know that, I understand that, but
Our draft process happens so that way all the kids go into a we hold a tryout, and then we have a draft, and each kid gets drafted by a coach regardless of their location.
what about the minor league
Same thing.
and T-ball too?
T-ball and instructional, we actually will work with parents that are either siblings or daycare providers or close in residency. But the segregation of Emmitsburg and Thurmont is defeating the purpose ultimately of why Sandy came to me.
Interesting.
I don't
Ma'am.
understand that.
I think his argument is saying that because their organization exists and at this time ours does not, we default go to their name, and that's where they draw the line at this point in time.
Well,
So-
I mean, I don't have a problem with them keeping
Sure.
the Thurmont name.
Sure. Okay.
We're trying to establish the Little League back in Emmitsburg, and would help it if the teams could play, if the kids could play together and try to establish
And
another team or two
Mr. Sweeney,
teams here.
you're asking a logical question. I think the response, and correct me if I'm
They
wrong.
won't do that because it's
was-
draft.
Correct. That's not in their model of operation, and therefore they're not going to do that. Their interest is the Thurmont program and the Thurmont name follow, as opposed to an Emmitsburg program starting
I
and
don't care
seeding.
what program it is.
Okay.
I'm trying to keep our
The kids together.
town together, yes,
Correct.
to play as a group.
Sure.
I
And-
coached for 14 years too, Little League.
Sure.
And I did the baseball, t-ball, softball, minor league.
Okay.
And none of this was here. We put it all in
Sure.
here.
Mhm.
And the girls I know always traveled. They never played in-house. They always traveled. Emmitsburg and Thurmont we always combined together as one team and played together.
And that's exactly what I'm saying.
Right.
So
20,000.
Emmitsburg and Thurmont will combine together. We're not going to have like Thurmont kids playing Emmitsburg kids because
Right.
right now, currently,
They're all
if we have 6 teams in minors and 6 teams in majors, we do most of our playing within house.
Do you know how many kids from Emmitsburg are playing on your league?
I don't off the top of my head. No, sir.
I heard a ballpark figure, no pun intended, of
How
about
much?
80 to 86
86
in the,
kids
in
from
the program.
Emmitsburg play.
And that's what I heard.
You know, if they established according to Little League, I'm just giving you this
And
hypothetically.
you're next.
If somebody would want to start a Little League here again, and wrote a letter down there and asking for district play here in Emmitsburg, all 86 of them kids would have to play here and could not play anywhere else. They couldn't play in Thurmont at all.
That is correct. With
No one's come forward to
as
do
long
that.
as long as it's a little league, and then they would have to redistrict the boundaries and
No, we just would ask for district play. I'm just considering, because I've been through the Little League too.
sure.
And
But right now,
see how much
Thurmont Little
I've heard?
League boundary comes all the way
To
North.
Woodruff Road, I know where it comes to.
and then over towards Tawnytown, Woodsboro, and then on the Frederick County side, and
That's
not
because
over.
Emmitsburg doesn't have a district?
That's because Emmitsburg does not have a little league team.
Right, but if they would re-establish one, they would redistrict.
Correct.
And they'd probably go back to the old district.
I'm not sure exactly how they would do it. That's not
I'm
what I can
just throwing
say.
out the options,
Absolutely.
In the future.
Yep.
We're trying to get our league established here again, and that's not going to happen through Thurmont, I don't think, because you guys aren't going to allow it to.
Well,
I don't think they're going to do it on his board.
no, but I mean,
It's a shame. when the towns
but there's
come-
nothing, there's nothing here for them to do at least this year. At least they have an opportunity. I mean, they still have some options, and then yeah, I think what you're saying
And-
is,
and-
is
Gentlemen, I'm going to ask you to hold off for a second. Commissioner Buckman's been waiting to add something,
All
if
right.
that's okay?
Yeah.
Commissioner Buckman, thank you, gentlemen.
I worked with Sandy, I guess about a year ago, trying to get, and we did everything we could to get parents involved and get the Emmitsburg League going, and we couldn't.
It's because it's Babe Ruth. They went to a different league.
It was Cal
So
Ripken.
they had, or Calvert, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yep.
So I didn't play in the town.
Yep,
I was
it's fine.
already going for them. And that's why it's a different competition level. So they wanted to get higher competition, so they wanted to go, we played in-house before, we never went out-house. Usually the little leagues play in-house of the boys. So we had 6 teams, we all played each another.
Sure.
And then when you
With
get
with the option
district play,
to
you
to
go and
Girls
sure,
can play.
as long as you play 12 games within your own
Yes,
division.
That's what it is. You played in your own town, and then
Why
when
would that
the last
diminish?
game you combined together and your all stars went out and played. into the
Mr.
other-
Sweeney, I'm going to ask you, we're going to turn a corner for a second. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, that's fine. I was just.
Mr. Johnson, thank you for addressing us.
Problem.
My hat's off to you. I would hope to speak for the board. Your achievement, with what you've done with the players.
I
is phenomenal.
can't take credit for that, but thank you.
Well, but you're here representing, so,
Thank
please
you.
convey that message. I'm going to ask the board now to turn to the issue at hand regarding consideration of field use, which is the agenda item. Is that okay with the board at this time?
Yes.
I mean, we understand everyone's route and everyone's position, I think.
Sure.
Okay, but what I'm trying to drive at is, we do have the clock and we do have our agenda. We don't want Mr. Briggs to turn into a pumpkin. So, with that in mind, yes, So, yeah, you're wearing your orange, very good. So here's the issue. We have 2 organizations that both want to use the fields. It sounds like both organizations have an interest and they want to use the fields here, and they seemingly, in theory, can use the fields contemporaneously. However, our concern is, as our board looks at it, in part, it sounds like some of us want to see the mission be restarting Emmitsburg youth baseball in some form or another. Is that fair to say? And the other view is we want to be amenable to baseball, which is broader and inclusive. That seems to be the 2 sides that I'm looking at. Is that a fair summary on my part? Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Okay. We're all right. So, we've got a couple issues. Does anybody have an issue with, does anybody want to see it be one group or the other group? I mean, is there any thought on that, first of all? Because that's kind of what I think our tipping point is. It seems the one organization is willing to drive the mission to restart youth baseball in town as a town entity. The other group sounds like their mission is to have kids playing baseball, but under a different flag, not ours, and not a town named group.
Well, I'm not trying to start it back up, Nina.
Say it again.
Not trying to re-put it back here as it belongs.
Okay,
Not
right, all
trying
right.
to help.
Not pursuing that mission. Okay,
Yes.
all right, terrific. So I think we have a consensus on the perspectives. Okay, so now to drive the issue forward a little bit further. Sure, you can sit down.
Oh, okay.
I'm terribly sorry. Yeah,
You're
please
good.
have a
Do I
seat.
need to say my name again and address?
No, because you
Got it.
spoke it before, and that was an oversight on my part. My
Thank you,
apologies.
Jeremy.
And thank you. We appreciate your patience. So now we come full circle on the issue.
Thank you.
Okay. So for consideration, we have two pieces put in front of us, and I'm going to turn to town staff. Is it something town staff can manage to have two groups sharing a field? Or is it in the best interest of town staff to have one entity using the fields? I mean, do you have any position on this?
I do.
Okay,
I think as it stands now, you have one organization that has already asked for specific fields. So you have an organization that's asked for the two fields back here and one over in the area, in the complex. You have another organization that isn't even sure yet they're gonna commit to fields, if that's correct. Because it still has to go back to the board. So my inclination is just a staff recommendation, why you would preclude the organization that's already committed and has expressed use for your three fields.
hold on, don't judge the board, make your recommendation.
I didn't judge.
Okay, all right,
I wasn't intending to.
good.
That if you have an organization already that's committed to wanting three fields, and if we are doing it as the policy states, first come, first serve, they've asked for these fields, does not preclude Thurmont Little League from coming in and asking, if approved by the board, for the use of the other available fields,
Okay,
or on the fields on days that it's not being used.
okay. So the staff's made a recommendation. If I understand it correctly, just want to restate it. The position of staff is that the Mid-Maryland, am I saying the name properly? Mid-Maryland team? The Mid-Maryland organization has a more fleshed out request at this point in time.
Correct.
And the fields that they are not that they do not intend to use at this time could be made available to the Thurmont organization
Or to anybody else, correct?
or to any other group who comes in to make
Right.
that reservation.
Right.
Is that an accurate
That
summary
is
of your?
accurate.
Okay, very good. Okay. So, stepping back from the mission of each group, town staff basically looks at it from sort of a practical perspective. I think it leaves the door open to both organizations to cooperate if they should so choose. But at the same time, it gives us a group that has a pretty clear set of goals that they want to see immediately, and another group that has some very clear goals that might also be modified at a later time to enhance things here. I'm trying to be optimistic. So, do we have any other views, or am I missing anything? Because I'm just trying to summarize it so we can move forward on this. Mr. Ritz, yes, sir.
As no one's going to be using the fields until our next meeting, I'm more agreeable. I'm suggesting moving this to March to vote. I'm not prepared to vote tonight. I've only had the packet for a few days.
Okay.
I don't feel comfortable voting this evening.
Are you asking to table it? Is that what you're asking?
I'd like to make a motion to table this to the March 5th meeting.
Okay.
Thing Mid-Maryland needs to know.
But I think in fairness to both of these groups, I mean, you were dealing with parents who need to make decisions, and some of them are financial decisions, be it, 175 or goodness, 1,000. And if you want to step back from the vote, that's fine. And no one says you have to vote. I don't mean to say it that way.
You can abstain.
He can still make a motion to table.
That's correct.
Then I make a motion to table this to the March 5th meeting.
Very good. Okay, is there a second for the motion?
Okay.
Hearing none, the motion dies.
All right.
Okay, Mr. Ritz, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so moving from there. I turn to staff. So the motion we're looking for related to accessibility for both organizations is accepting the
I would
request
I would make a
from, or
motion,
directing staff to
yeah.
accept the request?
You'd make a motion to accept Mid-Maryland's request to utilize baseball fields.
Okay, and let's name them.
We don't have to name them. I mean, you can.
Pictures of,
Well, my hope is that if we can name them, that way we leave the door open for the other organization. Is that, I mean, I
I
don't
mean,
want
you
to limit
can,
them,
but for, I mean, the way we do it for future use is
Okay,
the way we've done it in the past is with the Little League, is they would provide their schedule by a certain date,
okay,
and then we would fill that in. I mean, you can certainly name the fields. I don't have a problem doing that.
sure.
And then your second motion would be to just simply, if, depending on what it is, you know, to address Thurmont's request, whether you accept or not accept their request
Okay.
to utilize available fields, because they have not
Okay.
made any firm request, if that's the direction you're
Sure,
going. So
I
I
think-
just, two separate motions.
I think that's a very reasonable way of phrasing it. And in thinking about this, I know in the past, we have had two different levels of organizations reserve the fields before.
Right,
We have
we
two
get
entities, so we-
different,
okay.
outside of the Little League, we've had other groups utilize the fields.
Okay. So we have the fields named as Willow Drive Field.
Just,
we got names.
yeah, it's,
Make a motion to accept Mid-Maryland United's proposal as presented for the three fields use.
Fair enough. Okay. Is there a second for Commissioner Sweeney's motion?
I'll second the motion.
The motion's been made by Commissioner Sweeney. It's been seconded by Commissioner Blanchard. Is there any further discussion? Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody against? Any abstention?
I abstain.
Thank you, sir. Okay, the motion carries 4-0 with Commissioners Sweeney, Buckman, Blanchard, and O'Donnell in favor, and one abstention from Commissioner Ritz. Thank you. Okay, we turn to the second item. Is there a motion related to access to available fields? How do we want to phrase that?
that's fine,
Okay,
that's fine.
so what are you looking for from the action, though, the direction? That's what I'm unclear on.
Basically, you're, whether approving or disapproving, their ability, to reserve the fields.
Okay,
Obviously, they'd have to go through their proper channels, you know, with the reservation field, the ball field agreement, and et
Okay.
cetera.
all right,
That goes for Mid-Maryland as well.
all right. Is there a motion to that effect?
I make a motion to let any, do we have to say Thurmont?
Yes.
Oh, okay, to let Thurmont Little League use the three other fields in the complex for their baseball or softball, well, they don't have softball, their baseball usage
For their organization?
for their organization. Yeah, they will be used for practice and for games.
Okay. Is there a second for the motion as presented by Mr. Sweeney?
I'll second that.
Thank you. The motion's been made by Commissioner Sweeney. It's been seconded by Commissioner Buckman. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody against? Is there an abstention?
I'll abstain on that as well.
Thank you, sir. The motion carries 4 to no nays, but one abstention. In favor of are Commissioner Sweeney, Commissioner Buckman, Commissioner Blanchard, Commissioner O'Donnell, and abstaining is Commissioner Ritz. Thank you. Okay, so at this time, we now turn to establishing our agenda. Is that accurate for our next meeting?
Yes,
Okay. Anything from town staff coming forward?
always. All right, so the audit presentation by Michelle Mills, I'm putting that on tentatively.
Okay,
I'm gonna add it, it may be withdrawn, for reasons.
sure, understood. For clarification, though, do we have an obligation to hear the audit by a certain deadline? I'm somewhat concerned by that.
I believe it's October, I'll confirm.
Okay,
But
if-
they showed no
okay.
concern about it.
Sure.
But I will double check on that. But
mean-
I'd like to put it on the agenda, hoping that she'll be available.
And at this point, I have all faith in their organization. I'm not questioning that. I just want to make sure we're meeting our obligation.
Right.
Okay.
And
So-
I have all faith in Michelle that she wouldn't allow that to happen, but I will double check.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, is there another agenda item you can bring forward? or
I
choose to bring
have,
forward?
the.
You don't
twen-
have to?
I have, sorry. We've been busy, so anybody that questions staff, we're extremely busy. The 2018 pool management contract for consideration,
Oh, you got some bids in?
we did.
Oh, thank goodness.
You're surprised. Come on.
It's gonna be brand new.
I have for consideration an agreement between the town and Milani Construction related to the water line relocation at the bridge project.
The never-ending water line.
Okay. And this is for consideration, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
LG Sonic update, just a quick update on that.
Do we want that as an agenda item or as an administrative business
Make
item?
it admin.
Okay,
I have, this one's very quick, is the Park Pavilion policy update. And that's just to take the ball fields out of the Park Pavilion policy.
okay, so,
So when we replaced, when you approved the Park Pavilion policy in 2017, it contained information about your ball fields and your parks. We want two separate policies that govern your parks and your ball fields. You approved your ball field one, we just have to take out the ball fields off the Park Pavilion policy, if does that make sense?
makes perfect sense, and how do we want to name this as a item
Just-
for consideration?
Park Pavilion policy amendment for consideration.
Okay. Very good.
And then my final item is ordinances and policies related to parking for discussion. Our
And,
parking policy, our parking code has not been updated in 20 years. As I believe it was Commissioner Ritz pointed out, we still talk about horse-drawn carriages. We need to update our code to address our parking. There's some things that do occur in town that are not in the code.
Okay.
However, they are violations and should be cited, but we don't have the authority. There's a lot of sections in there that say it's a violation, but they don't provide any enforcement for staff. So even though it shouldn't be happening, we can't really do anything about it. So we'll bring all those for discussion.
okay,
I just had a vision of Miss Nell running down the street chasing a horse.
that's,
She would.
She'd be on it.
I know she would. And that's all, that's what I have.
very good. Okay, is there anything else from the board?
That's a full docket.
Okay, for administrative business, I don't know if this needs to be agenda, but for consideration, it would be the flag line, accepting the flag line for consideration. Say it again?
The flag line?
The flag line for the trail.
Oh, that's on.
I'm sorry, we've given permission to Trail Conservancy to flag. Now I would be coming back to ask for permission to allow, to accept the corridor the route they're delineating, and to move forward with corridor clearing and construction. For, does that make sense?
Yeah. I just,
Okay.
I wonder why you didn't add that. Just, we could have, couldn't we have just did it all?
No, the problem is that it's in our best interest to go and actually review the line that's designated.
Okay.
So
Just to make
it's-
sure.
You want a second pair of eyes on the creative process, as it were, representing the
gotcha.
town's best
Okay.
interest. And the other part is it adds transparency. So, okay,
So
so to that
it's
end?
Can you reword it or say it one more
Sure,
time?
okay. Administrative business item related to accepting consideration of flag line to allow construction to begin on the trail. I would happily take a modification if there's one easier for staff, given the horrified looks I'm receiving.
I think it's the heat. It's really not.
It should be warmer in here if we really want to just make it a full night.
Is that okay, Maddie?
Yellow Trail Part 2.
I think this would be considered torture in some countries.
Okay, so would you be willing to read back what you have, and we can modify it from there?
For consideration, flag line to allow construction at trail.
Okay, how about review of flag line?
Oh, jeez.
Review of flag line for consideration to allow construction.
Run tight, run. Look at.
I'm trying to make it smooth.
People aren't
but
gonna know
it's
what flag line are.
Okay,
is.
all right.
Today,
Review of the proposed trail path, trail route.
there you go.
That's better.
For consideration,
Yeah.
Review of the
trail route.
Trail route.
trail route for consideration. Review of the proposed trail route, because that's what it is.
For consideration, a proposed trail route.
Comical.
Run, and run fast.
I like Yellow Trail Part 2.
Yeah, but turn the
Get
heat up
that,
first.
Maddie?
Yellow
Okay,
Purple
good, because I
Trail.
don't know what I just said.
Ready?
Okay. Any other information? Okay, February 16th and 17th, the Princess and the Pea, Catoctin High School will be there. Aloha. Is there a motion to close the meeting?
We have to also talk about the Valentine's Day dance, right?
We just did.
we
Okay.
did? Is that separate?
Is there a motion to close the meeting?
Make a motion to close the meeting.
All right.
Okay. Is there a second for the motion?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Good night.